Hello everyone, Dulcie Horwitz here, Karla Solis, and we are here today to talk about if a drag queen were a house, what would that house be? And I have to say right off the bat, I am a little new to this world of a whole drag queenness, but you are a fan of the RuPaul.
All of them.
All of them. So having said that, actually, we picked 4 drag queens. You could do the first one.
So our first drag queen is Miss Cracker. This house, or it's not a house, it's a apartment.
But it's a residential?
It's residential. I think this is a really cool project and it doesn't get the recognition it deserves.
Okay.
Kind of like Miss Cracker.
Oh.
But that's not exactly. That's
not the connection?
Yeah, because I know you really want to know because
I have no
you
idea.
don't see
I can't look at this house and go, how is that Miss Cracker?
Okay.
Like, how on any level?
So, Miss Cracker, when he transforms into a woman, he takes the elements that are commonly considered to be feminine and makes it like a caricature. So his shape, his hair, his makeup kind of looks like a Barbie, and it's just extremely obvious, but he does it in a way that is very modern, simple, and it still looks good. And this house,
I see. Okay.
You know, when you're thinking of a house, you're like, oh, it's like a triangle on top of a square. Because you're a kid and that's how you draw it.
Right.
But that's exactly what they did here.
Or you're a professional architect and that's how you draw it.
Right. But they started with these basic elements, and which would be like a caricature almost, and they modified it to still make it modern and it looks elevated. It doesn't look like some little kid drew it, you know what I mean?
So you're saying they did something simple, but they did it super well.
Exactly.
Over the top, great. All right, I get that. I totally get that. When you were driving by this, though, what made you stop, and what grabbed you about it?
The first thing was the colors. So the black sticking out with the pink and the teal.
Oh, is it actually pink?
Yeah, it's actually pink and teal.
Oh my god, I thought that was like a sunset.
It's bright pink.
Ah.
And so I drove by it and I couldn't, like, I Googled it, I looked for it everywhere, nothing. So I actually had asked 2 friends that went to school in San Diego who did this, and I finally got a name.
And it's the Barrio Barns by...
O.J. Pagano.
Oh, very cool, very cool. All right, are you ready for mine?
I am.
Okay. Miss Cracker, to me, I don't know, okay, this is gonna sound awful, but I just think she's so pretty.
No, it's not awful. It's obvious.
I know, well, that's true. I mean, it seems like such a superficial thing to say, but at the same time, I mean, it's not like they don't strive, you know what I mean? So
it's part of it.
But, dude, I mean, I can't believe she's a dude.
I know.
I mean, when we're doing this video, I had to think about, oh shit, my makeup's not gonna look anything like they take what this is and they do it 1,000. But Miss Cracker is so super pretty. I would also say though too that really she's easily likable. I feel like she's so like funny and self-deprecatory in some ways, and she's super pretty. This is the Tassel House by Victor Horta. It's a tiny little bit of a cheat because some people think it's a hotel, but I'm gonna say it's a house. It's actually called House. House is in the name. So it's a house. The building, so it's a house. This is right up Miss Cracker's alley. This particular shot here is the most iconic shot of that particular building. And every time I see it, I just kind of drool because it's very difficult to do something like this without going over the top. And this is over the top, but it's kind of like what you were saying. Like you can go over the top and have it fail and have it be kind of a mess. And yet Victor Horta with this particular project went completely over the top.
But just enough.
This whole skylights and the metal work, it's just so pretty. But not just because it's pretty, because I think it was very difficult to pull this sort of prettiness off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I see what you mean.
And yet, just like you were saying, like, she does it and she does it, like, seamlessly.
Yeah.
All right, great. The next one, which is...
Okay, Katya.
Katya.
I just said Miss Cracker was my favorite, but...
I see a theme coming.
Yeah, I'm going to say that for all of them. And even the ones that are not?
The laughing super loud,
yeah.
It clips the audio very, very badly.
Okay.
So try not to...
Oh, goodness, that's going to be hard for me.
Well, just your laugh, you know,
just my laugh. Not Karla's laugh. I get it. That's fine. Are we still rolling through this?
Sometimes...
Because this is going to make it into the clip. All right, so go ahead. So Katya.
Okay, so Katya, she's very pretty, so she does that successfully. She's very funny. And so usually drag queens, they put themselves... Sometimes they put themselves, sometimes other people categorize them into different categories. So like some are like comedy drag queens, or some are good makeup artists, or some are super into fashion, or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
And then Katya kind of has something out of all of them. of all of those.
Okay.
She doesn't like go all into everything. So she has different characteristics that every time you see her, she's combining different elements. And so I picked the Meridian House by Thane Roberts. It is in Santa Monica.
Okay.
And definitely has different things that don't look like they should go together, but once they're together, it looks good.
I give you that 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. The kind of the barrel vaults with the horizontal grid work. You're like, I don't know that anyone would really think to put those two together, especially with the areas that are solid versus the areas that are transparent. The night shot is really lovely. I do see exactly what you're talking about. It's a composition of things that wouldn't normally go together that go together really quite well, and it takes a lot of talent to do that.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, mine, similarly, actually. So I picked a Price Residence by Bart Prince. It's the same thing that you were talking about, and the only other time we've referred to, that I've actually referred to Bart Prince for one time when we were doing the comedians was Will Ferrell. For the same reason, because Will Ferrell, when he does his comedy, can kind of comment on the piece he's doing while he's doing it. And I don't know.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But she does that too. Yeah. She takes herself seriously, but then there's this whole other layer where she's not taking herself seriously, and at the same time, like you said, doing it fabulously. Yeah. So this particular residence, oh my God, look! Clearly, I'm speechless, right? Clearly, I mean, you can't even say that this person is taking. They are taking things super, super, super seriously, and yet at the same time, it's so full of whimsy. Of course, my 8-year-old self would just, if I had to pick a house that I wanted to live in for the rest of my life, it's like these indoor tree house things. You know what I mean? Again, the Bart Prince thing is that this Katya is she has these like levels of intelligence where not only can she do it, it's beautiful, exactly everything you're saying, but there's a level of commentary going on when she does her drag. That is amazing and off the charts and full of whimsy and can actually make me lighten up.
Yeah, it makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
Listening to her talk, even if it's something negative, the way she says it is just like...
Exactly. And
I don't know.
This house does exactly that for me. I'm sure that I would have troubles if I lived in this house. But
minimal.
I mean, it feels like I would just feel like I was 8 all the time.
Yeah.
All right, okay, back to you.
So for Kimchi, I picked the Grider House.
Cool. Well, but I think of both actually.
Yeah. Well, I also picked a picture where. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to. Right. But so for Kimchi, I picked the Grider House by Bruce Goff. So I think I went a little more literal for this. So as far as the kind of geometries that are prevalent in her aesthetic, so there's a lot of curvature. Her aesthetic is to look like an anime character, and which is a cartoon. And this house,
and this,
it looks like that could be like.
Wasn't there one thing she did where she had some sort of, and it reminds me almost of that roof line.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think of that, but that actually, like the little thing on her head.
Yes. Yeah, I don't even know what was just like a weird tiara of sorts.
Some anime reference that I don't know about, but I'm sure it's an anime reference. But yeah, that actually looks like that. Yeah. That top plane. But so there's some curvature and a lot of like sharp edges on it. And I think we were talking about her personality too. How she seems so sweet and harmless, and then you hear her talk and you're like, oh my God,
there's some shade.
Like you would never want her to talk that about you because she would do it so nicely that you would thank her. Right. Sorry, I made you mad with my ugly or whatever. You know.
All right, great. Again, I think we are mostly here on the same page. It's funny because I picked the same picture that you did. Only because that's amazing. Well, because the transformation on all these guys is amazing. But for Kimchi in particular, it's pretty like oh wow, right? Sue Fujimoto, House N. There is a certain Sue Fujimoto, I don't know how you say it. He's so restrained, but at the same time, he's so flamboyant. If you look at this house, it is just a series of shells that have skylights in them and an interior courtyard that then has another shell around it. The shells themselves are restrained and they're just boxes. Yeah. But there's a lot of them.
And what they do.
Yes. And so the light and the way that it filters down, there's just a ton of layers. The kind of restrained geometries that he works with kind of speaks to that directness. There's something, when I watch Kimchi and Naomi Smalls, is that together, you can really see Kimchi, even though he's a drag queen, has a very practical, straightforward, especially when he's compared to Naomi. Yeah. They joke about the fact that he can do his makeup in half the time that it takes Naomi to do it or whatever. And the points that he makes, the opinions he has are all very kind of blunt sometimes and very straightforward. So I thought Sue Fujimoto and this house in particular, if you see the diagrams and the layers and stuff, it's a very restrained kind of geometrical house, but at the same time, all of those layers and all of the skylights, it's obviously very extravagant at the same time.
So you're saying like they managed to find a way to be extravagant within a parameter that's already set, maybe culturally?
Are you talking about Sue Fujimoto, in my opinion?
Or both, yeah.
Okay, if you look at a lot of his work, it's so he has this one house or apartment building. Have you seen it? It looks like a porcupine. And the decks are like 80 feet long, and there's like a series of decks all the way around the building. I think it's in France.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it is, but it's all white. And again, so it's restrained, and it's not like, it's the opposite of Victor Horta, where Victor Horta had all these like really beautiful kind of railings and curlicues and stuff like that. The stuff that Sue Fujimoto does, it's like these decks, and they jut out. But because there's 50 of them, it starts to become, and there's something about Kimchi where, well, Kimchi is very dramatic and very over the top, but the fact that he's anime, there's a certain reductiveness about it. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's a certain sort of like, you're not going to go all Victor Horta with all the little details and stuff. And he can get his makeup done in half the time. And it's just a little bit more straightforward, a little bit more blunt, even though it's very layered.
Well, he's emulating like what's typically a 2D character.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. So it
see,
is reduced.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay. All right, are you ready?
I am ready
for
for
the last one.
Okay. So Sasha Velour, also my favorite.
Did I
say that already 4 times?
I know. I'm not supposed to laugh loud because apparently it jacks up the audio. But I will say that when we talk about drag queens, I think Sasha was the first one that you mentioned to me.
Yeah, I think, or I'm not sure if it was the first one I mentioned,
or maybe just one of the, because of the design aspect.
She just stood out to you immediately.
Oh, maybe it was me.
You told me like, okay, these are all amazing, but Sasha, what is up with that? You know, and yeah, I mean,
so this house.
Okay, so that's the Edge House by Mobius. Okay.
I don't think I'm familiar with this.
It's very cool.
That is cool.
It's so okay. Let me
and a good fit.
You see it?
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
totally. But go ahead.
So Sasha's aesthetic is basically taking the typical drag and turning it around, and does it in a way that is extremely innovative and amazing, almost like it deserves its own category. Usually drag queens are like big hair, a lot of makeup, super pretty, not necessarily, more campy. Sasha's super artsy, bald queen, draws a unibrow on her forehead.
I know.
Sometimes does androgyny really well. That's not typical, but what she does is unbelievable. And so the Edge House, it's a house, but what's typical of a house is perpendicular walls, you know what I mean?
Right,
and they were like, so they slanted it, but it's done so effectively that it deserves its own category.
Agreed.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense because, I don't know, there's something, edgy, about the house. I mean, that's not like
the Edge House.
I know, it is called the Edge House. It seems kind of edgy. But, I mean, she is
and
edgy.
housey.
It seems kind of edgy and kind of healthy. But no, I mean, if you think about it, it's exactly the kind of drag that she does. It's who draws a unibrow on their head, but then does so successfully.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just bizarre. So it's not just, it's the geometry of it, the edginess of it, the kind of, and also I will say that there is something about Sasha that is very sharp. You know what I mean? And very, well, I would say aggressive almost. Yeah. Her design style is very aggressive. And so this particular house really does look to me like it's sharp, it's angular, and it's very aggressive. Yeah. I totally see it. Totally see it. All right. So this is the one that I cheated.
Oh.
I know.
But Sasha deserves it.
I picked the museum by Heatherwick, and it's called the Zeit Mocha Museum. First of all, this project is probably going to make that F you, I can't believe you got this built, episode, because holy crap.
It's amazing.
All right. So anyway, and so the deal with Sasha is that she's very edgy, she's very beautiful at the same time, all this. But the one thing, I was watching an interview with her, and she was talking about, I guess she has a show that she produced called Nightgowns, and she had drag kings, drag queens, all different sorts of performers, and she said something in that interview that made this particular project jump out at me. She said that it was a hyperbolic celebration of taking raw material and doing something else with it. And that's exactly, this is an old factory, but what they did was, see the red area there? Yeah. They cored that out. So it was a bunch of cylinders, you know what I mean? It starts like probably like a greenery or something like that. And it was a simple act of cutting. Like, there used to be an artist back in the 70s called Gordon Matta Clark, and he used to just bore holes right through buildings. Mm-hmm. But if you did it at an angle, when you bore a hole through something, it becomes elliptical. And so shearing through buildings with that sort of geometry, it just took my breath away.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Heatherwick Studios did with this particular building. They did some simple reductions, some simple cutting outs on what used to be just typical concrete volumes, and the result is jaw-dropping. And that's exactly how I feel like what Sasha does. Like, she takes the raw material and she does these weird cutaway, get rid of the wig, embrace the unibrow, but yet you get this incredibly beautiful result from it. Like you said, almost like a category of her own. Yeah. And it just takes my breath away. So, with apologies for not choosing a house for this one, I would have to
warranted.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so if Sasha were a building, then it would be this particular building. All right, well, here, let's give a toast to drag queens, and in particular the 4 that we did today: Katya, Kimchi, Sasha, and Ms. Cracker. Good job.
Hopefully we'll do more.
We will.